Hey guys, it's Miss Adams again. We're continuing to look on through the Unit 6B test review. So now we're on problem 16. So we're going to solve the given functions using the quadratic formula. So what does it mean by solve? That means we're going to find our x-intercepts. So in order to use the quadratic formula, our original equation needs to be in standard form, where you had ax squared plus bx plus c, a being the coefficient on the x squared, b being the coefficient on your x term, and c being your constant. If you look to your right here, I have inserted the quadratic formula for us. So that's negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. So let's go ahead and get started. On example A, we're given y equals x squared minus 7x plus 5. So our a value, so the coefficient of our x squared term is 1. The coefficient on the b term is going to be negative 7, or that's the coefficient on x. And then our constant here, so this would also be our y-intercept, is 5. So now we're going to take these values and substitute them into our quadratic formula. So I have x equals negative 7 plus or minus the square root of negative 7, which is our b term, squared, minus 4 times our a value, which is 1, multiplied by our c value, which is 5. And all of that is divided by 2a. And in this case, a is 1. So let's do some simplifying here. I have x equals, well, negative 7 is going to be positive 7 plus or minus the square root. Negative 7 squared is going to give me 49. Minus 4 times 1, which is 4, and then 4 times 5 is 20, so that's going to be minus 20, divided by 2 times 1, which is 2. Now from here, you can plug it into your calculator, or you can simplify it a little bit more. If you simplify it a little bit more, you'll have a better understanding if your answer is rational or irrational. So I know that 49 minus 20 is 29. So I have x equals 7 plus or minus the square root of 29 divided by 2. Now, if I were just asking for a complete solution, it was simplified to your best ability, I would be totally fine with this answer because you're not doing an estimated solution. This is the exact solution. But we can look at the numerical value to get a close decimal approximation as well. So notice that this has the radical 29 in it, the square root of 29. That is irrational, which makes this whole answer, the whole solutions, both answers, irrational. So if we plug that into the calculator, I've got 7 plus the square root of 29. And that's divided by 2. Excuse me there, we'll delete one of those. Well, notice that it pretty much gives you the same thing. It just put the radical first, so it gave you the square root of 29 plus 7 divided by 2. If I change that to decimal form, I'm given 6.19, keeps going on, no significant pattern. So I would round it to about 6.2. So one of our solutions is x is approximately 6.2. And the next solution, all I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back to that equation, or excuse me, what I plugged in first, the 7 plus square root of 29 divided by 2, and I'm going to change that addition to subtraction. So I'm just going to go back through here and change my addition symbol to a subtraction symbol. Once again, it's going to tell me the negative radical of 29 plus 7 divided by 2. Change that to decimal form, and I get approximately 0.81, or I can just say 0.8. So those are my two solutions for this example. So let's go on to example B. This is not in standard form. Notice that it's not set equal to y, or it's not set equal to 0. So I'm going to have to add that 3 to both sides. because I want my equation set equal to 0 so I can solve for my value of x. So if I write this out in standard form, I've got 2x squared plus 7x plus 3 is equal to 0. And then our a value, so that's your coefficient on your x squared term, is 2. The coefficient on your x term is 7. And your constant is 3 for this equation. Once again, I'm going to substitute those values into the quadratic formula. So I have x equals negative, in this case it's going to be positive 7, plus or minus the square root of 7 squared minus 4 times my a value of 2 times my c value of 3 divided by 2 times my a value of 2. So if I do some simplifying there, I've got x equals negative 7 plus or minus the square root. Well, 7 squared is 49. Now I've got minus, well, 4 times 2 is 8. So like I said, 4 times 2 is 8, and then 8 times 3 is going to give me 24. So 49 minus 24 divided by 2 times 2, which is 4. All right, so 49 minus 24, that's going to give me 25. So I have x equals negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 25 divided by 4. Well, that's pretty easy. Square root of 25, that's a rational number. That's going to be 5. So I have x equals negative 7 plus or minus 5 divided by 4. All right, use your calculator or use your brains, either way. So I'm going to say negative 7 plus 5 divided by 4. So it's going to give me negative 1/2 as one of my solutions. And then if I say negative 7 minus 5 divided by 4, I get negative 3 as my second solution. And therefore these are rational. All right, let's look at the last example. We have example C here. Once again, it's not in standard form, but instead of adding or subtracting my constant, I'm now adding or subtracting my x value, which really, it doesn't change what we're doing here. We're still going to subtract 8x from both sides so that we set the equation equal to 0. But now we're going to center that in our equation so that that term is in between my x squared and my constant term. So my standard form is 3x squared minus 8x plus 4 equals 0. Our a value for this equation is 3. Our b value for this function is negative 8. And the c value is 4. So plugging it back into the quadratic formula again, we have x equals negative 8 plus or minus the square root of negative 8 squared minus 4 multiplied by our a value of 3 multiplied by the a value of 4, or excuse me, the c value of 4 divided by 2 multiplied by a, which is 3. All right, let's simplify here some. So negative times negative is a positive, so x is going to equal positive 8 plus or minus the square root of, well, negative 8 squared. Negative 8 times negative 8 is 64. All right, so minus 4 times 3. Well, 4 times 3 is 12. And then 12 times 4, that's going to give me 48. So 64 minus 48. And that will all be divided by 6 because 2 times 3 is 6. So simplified down again, 64 minus 48 is going to give me 16. So x equals 8 plus or minus the square root of 16 divided by 6. 16's rational, or the square root of 16 is rational. It's just 4 because 4 times 4 is 16. So x equals 8 plus or minus 4 divided by 6. Now, do you need a calculator to solve these? Absolutely not. You can say 8 plus 4 is 12. 12 divided by 6 is 2. That's one of your solutions. Then 8 minus 4 is 4. 4 divided by 6 is going to reduce to 2/3. But you can also plug that into the calculator to get those values. And because both of these can be written as fractions, your solutions are rational for this example.